we are trying to achieve is, so we know that in draft we do have two kind of implementation of one managed, one unmanaged. Okay. So in both the things, the thing which is common, the things which is common is, let's just say I can say a draft functionality. This is something that we are now next going to pick up. Then the kind of determination it carries, that validations it carries, and then the actions it carries. Okay. And then we do have unmanaged. And here as well, we do have the same sort of a functionality being provided by the wrap behavior. So now what we'll be doing is we'll have started with the manage. We know how it works. So we'll start with enriching our application with the draft functionality, post which we'll see how the skeleton of unmanaged is. And draft functionality is something which anyway we would be covering over here. So when we are enriching our unmanaged application, then we'll quickly do that. Post which, once we do have a knowledge of managed and unmanaged and similarities and difference between both of them, then we'll start enriching it with the set of determinations, validation, and action that will become part of both of them going forward. Okay. So now let's just do one thing. Let's just understand the draft architecture and the draft functionality which a wrap application is also providing. Okay. So now first thing we would like to have is, so what is a draft? Okay. What is a draft? So I can say, for example, I do have a DB table, what we can call it as a persistence table, right? Persistent table. And here we are specifying some table which is containing my actual data. So for example, here I am saying that I would like to have something called slash DMO travel M, for example, which is containing my data for my travel application. So whenever a new record is getting created, this is where it is getting persisted. Okay. Now consider there is a user who is using your application, like some person is there who just started working on your application. He said, okay, I want to create something, and he entered XYZ information. Okay. Oh yeah. I guess 1, 2, 3. For example, he entered some random stuff and he just started working on that. In between, he realized that no, I want to have some sort of a detail, or I can say concrete information of the booking before I even start working on the travel. Or let's just say he was not sure on the pricing side, or he is not sure on the tenure, like okay, what will be the schedule like from when and when my travel will be starting and it will be ending. Okay, so now what he can do is, even though he entered certain stuff which we already know, just because he don't know certain information, he definitely cannot save this, because otherwise it will create a partial travel. Okay, first. And when we say a partial travel, it means it will be visible and it will be manageable by each and every other person. That's the main issue, right? Otherwise, I guess there is no issue in creating a partial entry. But making a partial data entry into the system is also not that good. That's the first thing. Okay. So I can say issue while a end user have partial information. This first. Second, and the main concrete reason why actually draft functionality is required is, for example, consider your a person is working on this, and at this particular point in time, he want to enter, I guess, a very huge set of information for creating any sort of such business information, be it a travel, be it any other business relevant information. Due to XYZ reason, for example, in between while he was working, something else come up, or let's just consider a natural thing. So for example, there is a power outage. Okay. So whatever information he just entered would be gone, because even though he spent half an hour spending creating all this stuff, but just because he did not create it, or I can say just because he did not save this information onto the database, his information is gone. Okay, so the thing is, even though I can say due to some unforeseen reason, okay, just because the just because he was not able to save his work data is not persisted. So what if we can provide some sort of a, I can say data storage, which allows you, or I can say which allows the user to save the partial progress, whatever he has made on the application. Okay. And that's where the functionality comes, or I can say it's called a draft functionality. Okay. And this draft functionality also internally saying is a table. Okay. So there is something called draft table as well, which stores your draft information. So there will be a draft table which will be storing your draft information. So for example, I can say Z your DMO underscore travel. So there can be a table which always keep a track on what all things are being worked upon on the screen. So whether there will be an explicit action required from the user in order for the draft information to be saved? No. Instead, while the person is progressing, each and everything that he is feeding the form with, okay, those all the information will keep on updating on the draft table by a minor merge calls, or I can say minor backend update call, which are very tiny in the step. For example, if the person is updating one information, which is a travel ID, that will be saved instantly. If he is trying to update another information, that will also be saved instantly. But those all the things won't be saved in the actual database. So that is something that the person should not worry, but instead it would be stored in the draft table. Now, if we see in this direction, then the issue will be that we are maintaining two parallel database over here, and it means we are investing twice in the database storage. Correct. So from the cost effectiveness perspective, this is very costly. But if you see, draft is a temporary storage. Okay, draft will always be a temporary storage. It means whenever a person save whatever work he has done till the time he okay, I guess from the time he started. So once he saved, the draft entry will get vanished, or it will get cleared out, and the actual entry will be created with relevant information in the persistent table after the save sequence execution. Okay, so that's how it would be. So ultimately, draft table only contain the partial placeholders, or I can say the field which a user has entered. Once the person is saving those information, draft table will be cleared out and it will be stored in the persistent table. So you can say draft table is nothing but some sort of an intermediate or temporary storage. Okay. So now the thing is how we can do that, how we can um, generate such a draft functionality. Okay, so let's just do this. Let's just try to enrich our application with the draft functionality. So first, let's just make our application a full one. So I'll just say I will just close everything else that we had. Okay, and another thing, let's just also make this a full one. So I guess we removed the delete functionality, but we might need that, I guess, some point in time. So I'll just make it re-intact. Okay, now over here, I'll just close this. And now if you just go back over here, now what we'll want is that we want some sort of a draft functionality. So here we are specifying manage. Here we are specifying that the syntax check should be done strictly. And these 1 and 2 are nothing but some sort of a release version. So ideally, SAP framework is actually releasing the kind of strictness you want. So I guess currently there is only one. If they have already started release with the two, maybe we can also check. Yeah, that's good. I guess there is nothing called 3 for sure. Yeah, there is nothing called 3. So 1 or 2 are expected because it defined the strictness level. So strict 2 is the maximum strict. So for example, there would be some keyword list, there would be some prerequisite things that it would be considering while it comes to the strictness of the code, that okay, if this is there, then this all things should be there into the system. Otherwise, that particular I can say behaviors cannot be enriched. So there is a strictness. Ideally, it's advisable always to go with the maximum strictness. So in case of any sort of future upgrade, you will not observe any sort of discrepancy in your application's behavior. Okay. Now, so like we defined at the header layer, the manage and the strictness, same way, if you want a draft functionality to be enabled, you have to specify something called with draft. Now is the main thing that you should be understanding. So the moment we say that we are going to start with the draft functionality, you will start receiving multiple errors. Okay. Because for a draft thing to work, there are plenty of things, those are prerequisite. Okay, so if I'm enriching my application with draft, let's just try, I can say, resolving each and every error. So here, if I just put the cursor, it says that if multiple markers, if with draft is used with the strict, there must be an explicit definition for a draft determine action prepare. So it means it says that like we had couple of actions, right? So create is an action, update is an action, and delete is also an action. So if you are saying that you want a draft functionality, so like these actions that you specified explicitly, please also do specify draft determine action prepare. So I'll just copy it over from here and we'll paste this draft action. So you should be specifying this. So I'll just go over here and there won't be any double inverted comma. Just to highlight it to you, it just system specified that. So I will just say semicolon is one. Now let's just go back. There is another error. If with draft is used, then there must be an explicit draft action edit. So this is not a determine. This is instead saying draft action edit. So I'll just say draft action. And here you will be specifying that particular action over here. Okay, and if you there is there, then I want another draft action called activate. This is what it is saying. So I'll just add one more draft action. Okay. Next, if I just again go back, it's saying that there should be a draft action called discard as well. I'll just explain like what is that and what all. Okay, there is something called discard. So maybe we can say first edit of the draft should happen. Then I can say activate. I guess the sequence does not matter. I'm just defining it in some sort of a logical sequence. So at least it makes sense. Okay, so there is one. I'll just put a cursor and it says that I want one more action called resume. Okay, so I'll just say okay, I'll just put a cursor and now what does it say? That there is no draft persistence is specified those for this table. So you have to specify some sort of a draft persistency over here. Okay. Another thing is it says that you are specifying lock master, but there used to be a total E tag. So there, like we do have a E tag, which is a runtime, or I can say I used to have a E tag, which is something a field which is being stored at the database layer to check whether the information which a person, a user is changing is the latest or not. For that, there is a E tag. But when it comes to a draft, right, then there are, I can say multiple updates call going on to the system, right? So when I say a final record onto the database that never get updated, right? I guess till the time the person does not save it. But it does not mean that once a person start working on this till the time he does not save it, another person should be allowed to edit it. No, right? We need some sort of internal locking mechanism. And for that reason, there should be something called total E tag. The total E tag ideally pick the timestamp information from your draft table, and it allows you, I can say, maintaining concurrency at the time of editing. That if a person is having a draft open on his screen, another person should not be able to change anything. So here I'll just say last change at. Okay, so now as you can see, we do have very less amount of error. I'll just still put a cursor over here and it says that you have not specified any draft persistency. So you have to specify some sort of a draft table over here. So I'll just say draft table and let's just say ZEO DMO, I can say ZEO, travel, manage draft. Now, as you can see, it is giving me a error with an warning. So I'll just put a cursor over here and it says that, okay, there is a draft table which does not exist, but if you want, I can create it for you. So I'll just say, yeah, please create a draft table. I'll just double click on this and system will prompt me with a pop-up and I'll just say, yeah, please create a draft table. Okay, now as you can see, even without us asking for anything, system just started creating a draft table for us. And these are the information which it carries that, okay, for a travel, I will store the information of a draft with the same relationship. And at the layer admin, I'll store some sort of administrative data for the draft activities. Okay, so I'll just activate this. You are not required to do any sort of change over here. It's just a suggestion. I'll just say syntax check. And as you can see, now the error is gone on the root view because now we do have the draft table specified over here. If I just go back over here, here you would be able to see that a draft table, I'll just say ZEO booking, manage, and the draft table. Now, as you can see, again, there is a yellow icon which says, okay, would you like to create the draft table? I'll just say, yeah, please go on, create it. Okay, and here I will just start with the table creation. Okay, now I'll just activate this and maybe we would be able to see. Okay, if I just go back and do a syntax check. Here, as you can see, now the errors are gone, but we are now getting certain warnings. Okay, now why is that warning? Because as you can see, what we did is we specified that we can do create, update, delete, which is for sure. At the same time, we specified the life cycle of a draft information. So what it says is the moment any sort of change is being done, there should be some sort of preparation of data. For example, a person is entering information called 1, 2 in the travel ID. Then before even that data getting persisted somewhere, be it in the draft table as well, you want to do some sort of additional information determination, or you want some sort of a validation on the data which user is entering, even without he asking that. Okay. So if you want that to be done, then at draft layer, you are getting the control while the data is in preparation mode. That is why it is called prepare. And that's where you can specify list of determination and validation you would like to. But that's what we'll be using this action after some time. Post which for the very first time when the user goes in the edit mode of the object page like we did. Okay, so the creation is also one of the edit. Okay, same way if I just go over here I can also decide to go in edit mode. So this edit information that you are also able to see over here uh, is going through some sort of a action. So whenever you are saying edit, ultimately a draft instance will get created onto the database. So during the draft entry is getting during draft entry creation, you will also get a control over here. Same way, whenever someone is saying that no, I don't want to have the draft information. I am happy with whatever was there earlier. I want to discard all the changes I did. Then here we have a cancel, and the moment you cancel that, the user action, or I can say whatever he did till now, will be discarded. And the moment someone activates, or I can just save the final information, the information will be persisted onto the database. So activate is a step which is a final step in the draft execution. At that particular point in time, the draft table entry will be deleted and it will be persisted into the actual table. That's the action, draft action activate. Okay. Then there is something called draft action resume. So ultimately, the moment someone goes in the edit mode and he starts preparing, so I guess in between the edit and prepare, a resume action will be called. So there is only call once at that particular point in time. Now, these are all the life cycle. This is all the actual actions. Okay. But now, as the create, update, delete is having a draft table, or I can say a draft persistence is specified, we can say that these actions are draft enabled. Correct. Same goes over here, as we have specified that this particular information, this particular behavior of this booking is also having a draft capability enabled on top of it. A draft base update and delete will also be done. But how about creating the booking? I mean, we are saying that even without the user knowing, or even without a user clicking on the final create, I would allow him to store each and every data onto the draft layer before even actual instance gets created onto the system. So if that is something that we are going to allow, okay, then in that case, my ask is that shouldn't we also allow the child entities information also to get created at the same point in time? Because as you can see, we are in the create mode, but here we are not allowing any sort of booking information creation when the user is in the initial draft version. Okay, so what if a person wants to prepare each and every data and maybe have a peer review before even considering it for the create? That's very much possible, right? So we would need some sort of a draft functionality while a child information is also getting created. Or while I am at the child layer, I would need some draft functionality while my parent information is also being updated. So for example, when I am saying that I am at the booking layer and I am entering one more bookings, and booking will incur some cost. So if I'm as a part of it, if I am also having this total price getting updated, then also I would also like to have this particular action being done at the same point in time. Right. So it means I want that the booking creation should also, even though it is being done via the association, even though I cannot create any booking without a travel existing onto the database, but if as my travel is existing onto the database, at least at the draft layer, shouldn't my booking also be allowed to be created? Right. And that's the reason you are getting the warning over here saying, in case of with draft, the composition booking does not point to self-lockable entity lock master and is given property with draft as a mandatory property. Okay, so here you have to specify association, but the moment you specify association, you also should have to specify something called with draft over here. Okay, now we are able to, or I can say we should be able to do the booking over here in the draft phase. Okay, same way my updation should also be allowed with the draft phase. But here I'll just remove the semicolon. So whenever you have curly bracket, I guess there is a I can say format you should observe that whenever there is a curly bracket, semicolon won't be there, and whenever there is a terminating statement, then definitely we might need some sort of a semicolon. Okay, this is what you should be observing. Now, post which maybe we already enabled, right? So I guess as you would have observed, the total E tag is only available at the header layer. Same way, draft actions are also available only at the root layer. Now we can activate this. Okay, so we enrich our behavior with the draft capability. Now let me just go back over here, cancel this. I'll just refresh this. Okay, now if I just go back over here. Okay, and if I, for example, start editing this, I'll just say my 1889 was 1890. Did you see any sort of draft movement over here? No, right? Because the we just define the information at my behavior definition layer. We never enable the draft on my projection. So for it to work, you have to enable the draft on the projection layer as well. Okay. So till the time you don't explicitly say that I am going to use this functionality, you won't be able to. Okay. And it gives you liberty that if you want certain things to start appearing on your UI, once it's totally ready, you can keep working on your behavior definition and don't project it to the projection. Okay. So for example, here, let's see if we do have two at the projection layer as well. Yeah, we do have. Okay, so I'll just say with draft. Oh, sorry. Here, each and everything will be used. So I'll just say use draft. Now here, as you can see, you are getting the same error that you want action edit, and likewise you will get the same errors for the rest of the action as well. So we'll just start adding all those things. So I'll just say use action, and what is the action? So I'll just say edit was the first one that we just started getting an error on. Use action, so I'll just say discard. I'll just say use action. We'll just say, for example, resume. Use action, and here we'll just say activate. And another one we can say use action. So prepare is also an action. Yeah, it's a determine action, but it's an action. Okay. Another thing like we did over here, that association should also have the draft capability. So I'll just say with draft. Oh, with draft. Okay, and same goes over here. So we'll just use with draft over here. Okay, I'll just activate this. Now, as I do have this activated, as you would be observing, I'm not doing any change in the definition or binding at any point in time. All I'm playing around with is my views and my behaviors. Okay. And now if I just go back over here, and I'll just go back and I'll just refresh this application again. Okay, now let me just start creating this. The key value, okay, yeah. There's one more important thing, but we'll discuss it, I guess, in some time. So here, I guess I do have this. I'll just delete this entry. Okay, I'll just create this. Okay, so maybe what was it, and I guess what is the purpose of that? Maybe we'll discuss it in some time. So for example, I'm saying that I do have this information. Now, the moment I say I do have a draft information, you would see that even without me asking, I would have a very nice created by, created on, and all those things being popped up. Okay. And here I do have a booking information also started getting pop up. Now I don't have a cancel. Instead, I do have a discard draft. Okay. So for example, I want to say that I would like to create another travel 2023-02. And the moment I do that, you would have observed that it says draft updated. Okay. It means the system already started storing those entries. So if I just go back over here, and if I just check out the table, so I do have two tables over here. I'll just open this. This is my database table. Okay, and here I guess this is my draft table. So I'll just go over here and we'll try to check out this first. Okay, and now here I will say my travel ID is something like, oh, my bad. Okay, 2023-02. Definitely here I won't find it, but here if I just go back, okay, and here if I just try to check out that particular entry, 2023-02. So it just, okay, I guess it would start storing those entries. It will, okay, I guess maybe as it's key, maybe it won't, but let's just see. 2023, I'll just say 07. I'll just refresh this entry over here. Yeah, as you can see, other than the key parameter, each and everything will be persisted in the draft, because key is something that will get generated while you only save that. Okay. So here, as you can see, the moment I did that, one more thing to observe over here is I'll just say customer, right? So if I just say 06, I'm not putting a curse. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll just remove this. I'll just right click over here and I'll just say inspect over here for you to observe something. Okay. This is very important. So if I just go over here and okay, so for example, I'm going in a network call, which is, oh, yeah, here I do have a network tab. Now, if I just go over here and I just say that I want 2023-06. Done. Now, let's just observe the network tab, like what it is doing. You'll just go over here, and as you can see, it is triggering the merge call. It is merging each and every data for this particular information because your key is something that it is expecting that will get generated at the end. Currently, we don't have any automatic key generation mechanism, and that's why we are providing it as an input, but definitely that won't get persisted because key never gets persisted, it gets generated. But here for each and every field, as you can see, the merge call is getting triggered for the customer ID 06 as well. If you start editing anything else, for example, you say, no, it should not be 07, it should be 05. The moment you do this, it will also update this. And each and every field will have a merge call. And this merge call will never update anything on the real one, but instead on the draft. So how the system is recognizing that I have to update the draft table and not the actual one? Because as you can see over here in the merge, there is something called is active entity. Okay, so this is active entity term is pointing out whether I'm talking about the actual instance or I'm talking about the draft instance. So if is active entity is false, it means it's a draft. It means it's not the active instance of the data. It's not the live instance of the data. Instead, it's a draft version of the data. When you say is active entity equal to false, when you say is active entity equal to true, it means it's a live data. Okay, so if, for example, if I just go back one more step here, it will say whether you want to keep the draft. I'll just say, yeah, keep the draft over here. Okay, and now if I just go over here, okay, and here I'll just say, I'll just open this entry, put a cursor. Now, as you can see over here, you will see one more information saying travel ID 1 is active entity equal to true. So the moment someone says active entity equal to true, it will always get the data from the live table, which is the persistent table. At this point in time, the data will always be fetched from the persistent table and not the draft table. Okay, so there is a difference between a is active entity, and for each and every change, information will be stored post that into the draft table. So I'll just go back and let's just start working on the one which we stopped. So let's just say 2023-02. As I mentioned, the draft and information won't store your primary key. Instead, it will always be stored in the real instance. Okay, so I'll just say 07. And here I'll just say I want to have a travel from 14 till 28. Okay, and here I want to have a 100 US dollar. Okay, now I'll also create a booking information. Even without the actual instance being available onto the database, I'm still able to create the booking instance. So for example, the booking date, I'll just say I'll book it on today. And customer ID, for example, 2023-06. Airline ID, I can say 2345 and flight. I can say 234 and flight number is 345 and flight date is definitely 14th of Feb. I'll just say that's where I'm starting the and 100 USD. Okay. Now, what you would also observe is that like we had the data over here, same way the booking would also have got some data. Okay, so your booking just started getting the data that you just inserted over here. Now you will say apply. Okay, and now you would say that, okay, this information is fine. I want to store this information. Okay, and yeah, I guess this is also draft information that did not get stored. I'll just create this. What did just happen? Just happened. Yeah, it will go in the travel prepare. That's where it is preparing all this information. Oh, yeah. So ultimately, it is trying to get this information. The moment you say prepare, it is trying to derive. So I guess now is the time that we should not. Okay. It won't be able to derive this value. I'll just say, for example, 10. Travel ID at offset 261. Wow, there's something. Okay, so the thing that just got happened is, so I'll just say maybe there is a good thing. Maybe we can just define it over here. Okay. So ideally, there is a key information which should not be inserted, right? So I guess for the learning purpose, maybe we were inserting that, but let's just say, I'll just go over here and we'll see, we'll just rerun that. So ideally, key information should get generated. So what we have to do is we have to write a determination in order for the key information to get generated. So that's what we'll be doing next. So I'll just, for now, I'll just say, I'll just rerun the service binding. I'll just open the travel again. Okay, Joseph, I guess. Okay, so you have to leave, right? I guess you do have working day today, right? That's what I understood. Maybe you already got dropped off. Okay, yeah, perfect. Thanks. Okay, so now I'll just go over here. Let's just delete this entry for the first. Second, let's just create this. I'll just say I want 2023 agency ID will be my 0. I can say 7. Oh, right. 2023, we'll just say 06, and I'll just say the start date and the end date, which is this 14 and 20.
Sumit, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
So here we are defining the draft in the definition and then using it in the in the projection and then using it in the definition, right? So how, so since this version of SAP is RAP enabled, we are like doing all this. How would we? I don't know how we used to do in the earlier version in the BOPF layer. How did we exactly do it?
How did we exactly used to do the draft one?
Draft, yes. In
So I
the at
guess,
least the 1909 version.
so and the BOF as well, at the header layer, there is, I can say BOF has two kind of like a structure and the element. Okay.
Yes.
So at the BOF layer, if you just go at the very header, then there is a capability. You can define the capability which says that whether it should be a draft enabled or not. This first. But while you are working on the CDS based BOF application, okay, so you would be knowing that BOF objects can be generated in two ways. Either you yourself going into BOBF or I can say, sorry, BOPF and BOBX. So either of the transaction you can go generate the BOF object, but another way will be that you are generating a CDS view. On the CDS view, you are enriching it with the object model annotations, correct?
Yes.
You are saying object model, composition, root, create, update, delete, enable. You are specifying write active persistence, where you are specifying the active persistence of it. At the same time, you are also getting one option where you specify write draft persistence. And like you are specifying create, update, delete, you will also specify the draft capability. You will also have one object model annotation which allows you enable the draft. The moment
Okay.
you do that, next time you generate the BOF object, your BOF object will have upgraded capability of that of the draft.
Okay.
But that's a legacy one. I mean, nowadays, I guess people are shifting towards RAP. But yeah, the systems which are still older than 1909, BOF can also have a draft functionality enabled. So those depends on the object model annotations at that point in time.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So here I'll just say, let's just see if we can. Otherwise, we'll just have to write some sort of a dummy determination also over here. So we'll just see that as well. Okay. So I'll just say 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, and let's just say flight date, which is of 14th of Feb. Okay, and here we'll just say 100 USD. Okay, I'll just apply this. Okay, and now let's just create this. Okay, so now it just got created, but the issue is that we are not in a position to specify. So I guess the moment I say that, okay, draft entry is, so I am specifying entry in the persistent table. At the same point in time, you would also see that the table, which used to be the one which I created, right? So I guess these are the draft table one. Yeah. So these for my booking and these for my said your travel MD. I guess these are one. Here used to be the draft entry, but the moment I save this, if I just refresh this, you would see that, okay, draft entry is gone. Same in the travel and in the booking. Okay, because your travel and the booking are the one, I guess the Z table are the one which stores the draft instance. So the moment you persist it, you will see that, okay, those entries are being now replaced and those entries are getting deleted in while in the actual table, you will see that those entries are getting created. So this is my Z your travel M. So if I just go over here and instead I specify travel ID 0, you will see that this is the one which is getting generated because the primary key is something that we were trying to insert, which is definitely not possible while it comes to a actual application. So primary key should never be generated. Instead, I mean, should never be inserted, specified by the user. Instead, it should be generated. And that's how we were not able to save that particular information while even though we are entering it. Okay. So this brings us to very important point in the wrap. Okay. So we define that managed and unmanaged contexts are there, which is a draft functionality. There can be unmanaged context with the draft functionality and same it has a determination and validation and actions. But what you would have observed is that there are two kind of key aspects. There are two kind of keys which are possible when it comes to wrap based application. One is called semantic key. The one is called semantic key. Now, what does a semantic key mean? So a semantic key means, for example, if I do have a key over here which says 1, then 1 is something which is a primary key when it comes to a database table. Okay. And at the same point in time, that's also a primary key, or I can say key information for my user as well. Okay, that's why it is called a semantic key based wrap object. At the same point in time, there is one more possibility. Okay, so for example, if I just go over here, then there is one more possibility called GUID, or I can say UUID based key. Now, what does it mean? That each time you are going to, each time you work, okay, your system will generate a key which is a GUID based key. So what is a GUID? So GUID is a kind of a random number. So I can say you would see what is a GUID. So for example, I'll just say generate GUID online. You will see. I mean, just an example, just to show you. So here, as you can see, if I just go over here, you will be able to generate some sort of a GUID. So these are GUID. Now, at any point in time, you generate this particular GUID. Next time, this same number cannot be generated because this number is being generated based on your current location, timestamp, and n number of other algorithmic factors, which is never going to be true. For example, take an instance of like today is 12th of Feb, 9:35, certain seconds, certain milliseconds into the morning. And this particular time is never going to get repeated anytime in the world in the future. Okay, that's not possible. And that's why this particular key that gets generated will be unique for each and every user. And that's next time I just say generate random GUID, you will see that, okay, a random GUID is getting generated. So if I am considering that this particular field is being used as my primary key over here, okay, then this is called a GUID base key. Now the advantage over here is that this particular GUID key will always be unique. So you are not worried about like whether while I create a new entry, I have to determine a new key parameter. Instead, it will always be unique. But when it comes to my end user, he'll always have something that makes sense for him. Okay, so for example, if I say that I do have a travel table. I do have a travel table which is having a GUID based key. Oh, I did not copy it. Which is having a GUID based key, but for him, ultimately, the travel table's key for him will be, I can say, travel ID. This is something that you will be determining, and that can be a 1, 2, or so on and on. So which makes sense that, okay, this is a travel ID. He will not say this hexadecimal key out, okay, for anyone who want to refer the travel. So that's why rep-based application works on semantic key as well as GUID-based keys. We touched upon the semantic key. Okay, so the semantic key ideally allows you creating a key parameter which is also a backend key which uniquely defines a record. At the same time, on the UI side as well, for my end user also, that's a key. That's the meaning of a semantic key. This is something that we should be knowing. Okay. Now, the issue that we had right now, I guess sometime back, that we were not able to enter the key information over here. This is something that you can still overcome. So there are plenty of ways of doing that. Maybe you can think of, let's just say, a determination which decide, okay, very early into the system that, okay, what all kind of what all parameters should be considered while you are defining a particular key parameter. So for example, if I say that I want to generate a new travel ID, what I'll do? You will blindly go and ask the system to actually generate that particular key definition during the create, and that's where the determination will come into picture. So we are not going to implement it right now because we are going to now learn few more aspects which are in the same direction of that of the unmanaged, and then maybe we'll start with that. But for us, at least to understand that, what we can have is the skeleton of it. So we would have in future the determinations, which will say, for example, determination, and then this determination will just say that, okay, generate travel ID. That while a particular travel is being saved, let's just generate the travel ID. So when I say whenever it is getting saved, so then there will be something called events on which you want this to get generated. So if you just say that you do have two options, whether you want to generate something on save or you want to generate something on modify. So for example, if I'm talking about the primary key, then it makes more sense when I am saving generating it on the save. But for example, if I'm calculating the total price of something, for example, if I'm entering anything in the booking, the total price is getting calculated onto the header. So that should get generated whenever someone is modifying anything on the real time. Okay, that's where the instance on save modify will also come into picture. So I'll just say on save and on save, but at what time? So I'll just say only while the person is creating the record, that point in time, this particular travel ID should get generated. So there is a meaning of I can say, a determination. So a determination will help you generating certain thing at different instance of an application. Okay, and that different instance of an application will allow you, I can say, generate that particular dependent information at whatever I can say life cycle layer you want. So for example, certain thing you want to get created or generated at the, I can say, certain thing you want to get generated at the save instance, certain thing you want to get generated while a person is just changing anything, or I can say on modifying. Okay, so those all the things you can consider over here. Okay, so there is one important thing that you should be considering. Okay, now another thing that we would also look over here is certain I'll just say if I want to generate this determination, you would be able to see that how it gets generated. But the execution, or I can say implementation of it, is something that we'll be taking care in the next session. I'll just say add method. The moment you do this, you will see that a method is getting generated. Now, let's just focus on one important thing. So as you can see here, each and everything is being generated as a part of a certain class. Okay, so this is my certain class which says that this is an abstract class which we define for the behavior. On top of it, then there are some sort of a LHC. I mean, these are local classes. Okay, so these are local class. I can say local handler class. That is the meaning of a LHC. So this local handler class contains each and everything that needs for the handling purpose. So now, as you can see, one difference you would be seeing over here is, okay, I guess I have to save this particular thing as well. That's the reason. Because if you are saying that you are saying the class, the determination should all the behavior should also be saved, right? Because the definition is not yet activated. That's the reason. Maybe you are getting an error. Now let's just say, okay, now I guess we don't have any errors. Okay, so now as you can see, unlike in old oops ABAP, okay, in unlike in normal ABAP classes, you would have seen that I can have a class, then you can have a method. There can be a visibility section. So if you just go back, you will get a same glimpse of it that I can have a class. So whenever I do have a class, I can have a definition, I can have an implementation. Each class will have its own visibility area, public, private, protected. Same goes over here. Here, each and everything you would see that, okay, they are very private to that particular business object. Okay. But when you see the signature, right, you would be a bit confused that, okay, earlier we used to have some sort of an importing parameter, exporting parameter. Here we do have that. But on addition, we do have this for determine. Another thing is that it says that it gives you the keys of this particular travel, generate travel ID. But I'm not sure like what all things I'll get as an input and what all things I can pass as in my output. Whether this method is having any importing parameter, changing parameter, what all things it does it have? Okay, so I want to see those signatures. So how you can do that? So for that, if you just go in over here in the ADT, you will have Windows Windows show view. Okay, in the Windows show view, you will just say others, and here maybe we would have in ABAP layer something called ABAP element info. Okay, so this ABAP element info will help you in deriving those information. So if you just say open, you will see that it's getting open. So for comfortable users, maybe you can also bring it down over here. Now, for example, I want to say, okay, generate travel ID, which is a determination I created. So what will be my importing parameter? What is something that I can export? So if you just go in general travel ID, put a cursor on this signature, and now you would see that you can receive the key parameter as an input, and as a changing parameter, you can also return the reported parameter of it. Okay. And here the signature would also be something different. Okay. So here you would see that generate travel ID is a method which gives you the key parameter. Now, as a part of key parameter, it's again get type table for determination like this. So there is a signature of this key, but what all things this particular table will have. So you can click on derived type, and you can say that it is having a draft flag which says whether there is a draft or not, and the primary key of it, travel ID. Okay. So these are all component groups which ideally identify each and every key parameter differently. So we'll see which all key parameters are there and what is the purpose of it. So there are totally four, I guess: percentage key, percentage TKY, percentage PKY, and there is something called percentage PID. That is also one of that. But we'll be seeing what all things are there and at what place which will make significance. So these are kind of a deep table structure you can determine, see. These are type table. So it's a table which is having one flag called is draft and one flag called travel ID. Okay. And these are the information that you would be seeing as an input. So if you want to see that, okay, how that gets, I can say executed, okay, you would be able to see that as well. Second, if you just go back one more step, here you would be saying that what all things you can have. So you can also have some sort of a messages. In case you are saying that while generating travel ID, you want to give some sort of message due to XYZ reason that a number range is a valid number range, active number range is not there, or let's just say some database variable overflow or anything. Those messages you can report in the reported structure over here. So if I just go over here in derived type, you would see that, okay, for travel as well as booking. So ideally a reported is a structure which only gets generated on the parent layer. Okay, so you would see that ZREO travel, even though you are having a, I can say booking, the reported structure will always be that of the ZRPO travel. Okay, and here you would see that you are having a travel and the booking, and in each one of the cases, you would be able to give out the messages that, okay, there is some issue in my travel ID. So you would say, you would set the flag on the element and you would give the message over here in the percentage message, and that message will ultimately be flowing to the output. Okay, so this particular message will ultimately show up on the UI going forward. So when we go with the message handling, or I can say validation part, we'll also be seeing that. Okay, so these are all the things which, so here going forward, the very first determination we'll implement, I guess, maybe once we complete the structure of unmanaged, we'll start with the this particular determination implementation. But this is how you will be able to define, and it can get executed at multiple places. So this is just to give you a hint on what was the issue which we just faced some time back. So the issue was that we should not be able, we'll not be able to insert the travel ID, or I can say primary key. Instead, it should get generated via a determination. So this is how we'll be doing it. And one more thing, determination validations. Okay, these are the things that you are not required to pass to the behavior projection. So maybe this is something that you can also get as a question on your during your interview, that when I say that I have to pass each and everything from my behavior definition to my projection, should I pass each and everything? Definitely no. So for example, whatever fields you are specifying, read only mandatory. Okay, whatever determinations you are writing, whatever validations you are writing, those are the things that does not need explicit exposure. Okay, that will be by default available as a part of your application. Any sort of actions, okay, any sort of such functionality, which is an action, be it a draft action or the real action, be it, for example, a create, update, delete are the action. For example, these are also action. If I define any custom action as well, saying, let's just say, mark travel as a complete, okay, that something which I can also define as an action, then those all the things need a specific mention in the C view, or I can say in the behavior projection. But the determination validations does not need, and this particular field properties does not need a specific mention in the behavior projection. That will be auto inherited in your behavior projection. This is something that you should be knowing. Okay. Any doubts till now?
No, Sumit.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Okay, so now next thing we'll be seeing is how the same skeleton will appear when it comes to unmanaged. Okay, so now when we are going to go with the unmanaged, we'll reuse some of the component those are available to us. So I'll just go over here and I'll just close mostly all of this. And we'll just see the skeleton. When we say manage and unmanaged, what all things will differ. So I'll just quickly go over here and we'll start creating one more package for me. Yeah, now I do have that. This time we'll call it as a unmanaged. Okay, and now let's just add this. Okay. Okay, so I'll just keep all of us on mute for now. Okay, I guess in case you have any question, feel free to unmute just to uh, avoid any disturbance. Okay, now over here, what we were discussing some time back was the interface views, right? I guess in the CDS view, we do have some sort of interfaces. So as we created these interface views, we can also use the same when it comes to another kind of behavior. So for example, here we do have this R view that we are going to create. So in this particular unmanaged case, we can reuse this. Rather than us creating each and everything from the scratch, we can reuse this particular travel view and the booking view. And we'll be directly creating the R and C layer because these are interface. So as we discussed, these are meant for the purpose of reusability. Okay. So I'll just go over here and I'll just copy this name and I'll just create one view over here. I'll just say data definition. Okay, I'll just say ZR EO travel, and here we'll just say unmanaged transactional processing. But this time it would be unmanaged. This won't be a management. Okay, but this time this would be a root entity because it's a travel. Okay. So now as we are using the same interface views, we can simply copy this over here and paste it. Let's just comment this out and let's just remove this as well. Okay, so we do have this particular skeleton ready. Okay, let's just activate this. Same goes over here. Now let's just create another view. I'll just say new this data definition. Okay, so this time it would be booking, but here we'll just say unmanaged. And this time it would be a normal entity, so which will be a view entity in this case. Okay, and here we'll just simply say that my data source will be this booking. Okay, and we won't ignore this, so we'll just say remove this. So at least we'll just get the annotation that we specified at the base layer. Okay, so now we have to specify the composition over here. So I'll just go over here, copy this name, and I'll just say I do have a composition. I'll just say there can be 0 to n number of booking composition of this. And we have to expose this as well. It says that the association to parent is missing. So I'll just go over here and I'll just say association to parent this as travel on dollar projection. I'll just say travel ID equal to underscore travel ID. And I have to expose this association as well. Okay, and now I have to activate both the views at the same time because both has internal dependencies. Okay, so here I guess we do have a travel and booking, I guess created as unmanaged. And now what we'll be doing is we'll be just creating a C view on top of it. I'll just go over here and I'll just say right click. Okay, but here there is a unmanaged. travel projection view as an unmanaged. Okay, but as it's a travel, it will be a route. Okay, and this point in time, it's a projection. So I'll just remove this thing. And here I'll just say as projection on, and here we have to specify this particular travel view. So I'll just copy this and I'll just paste it over here. I'll just remove this as well. And I'll just say control space, insert all. Okay, and here we have to specify, as we discussed earlier, provider contract, transactional query. Okay, let me just activate this. Okay, next thing is same way we have to specify it for, I can say we have to create a consumption view for my booking as well. I'll just say data definition over here. Go next. And this time it would be a view. Okay, and we won't be ignoring this. So I'll just set this on, and now I'll just pick the booking view from here. This is the one that we are going to use, but this will be as projection on. Okay, and here we'll just simply say that we want all these elements. Okay, and we'll just say redirected to parent. So what is the parent of this? So this travel will be the parent for this. I'll just copy this. Okay, and same way we have to redirect to the composition child, which is this booking. Okay, now let's just activate both of this. Next thing we'll be defining the scope and we'll be activating the service. Next, I guess post which the very important thing will be the behavior and understanding the skeleton of it. Okay, so that's would be the one of the important thing that we'll be going to see now. So for example, let's just define the scope. That will be very quick. Okay, I'll just go next over here and I'll just define a service. Okay, and now here in this case, this will be my unmanaged. So I'll just copy this, paste it over here as travel. Okay, so I guess we'll have this particular service definition ready. Okay, so let's just close each and everything other than this, and I'll just go over here. Okay, now let's just create a service binding. Okay, and here we'll be just generating one more service binding over here. I'll just say travel service unmanaged. Okay, so first and foremost thing, we have to activate this. Okay, next we have to publish it. Post which, I guess, once the service is available, we'll be able to see that, okay, it's available as normal read-only application. The moment we extend it with the behaviors, okay. Next thing that we are going to say is the moment we extend it with the behavior, the functionality buttons, I can say create, delete, and all the things will be available. But for the functionality to work, the actual logic that we need is something that we have to implement at our own. Okay, that is why it is called unmanaged. Because maybe you would be remembering, like as we discussed, that manage and unmanaged, the only difference between manage and unmanaged is who is going to manage all the transactional call implementation. So in case of manage, it's a standard application SAP, which will be doing it. But in case of unmanaged, all we would be provided with is a placeholders. We would be provided with applications, I can say individual methods where we can define our own set of logic. Okay, so that's something that we are going to see, that what all methods are there. So maybe I guess some of you who would have worked on gateway-based services, right? The SCGW gateway services. You would have observed that we do have some sort of a methods getting created for each and every entity. For example, if I would have created a travel entity in gateway project, I would have got multiple methods, right? So if I consider the same skeleton, I would be able to compare the unmanaged app with that of the normal SECW skeleton. Okay, so it's not 100% similar, but just to give you a bit of glimpse, in case of a travel, if it would have been a gateway base, you would have got a method called get entity. Yeah, Meghna, I guess no issues. That's fine. Anyway, I guess we'll close today's session early, maybe somewhere around 10:30. Okay, so I guess that's fine. Right, not an issue. Maybe you can go through the recording post that. Maybe at around 10:30 anyway, we'll also be closing the session. Okay, so let's just go back. Okay, yeah, we do have this available. But what we were discussing on is that if I do have unmanaged app where I do have a travel, in the SHEW, you would see that, okay, if I am seeing that I might have multiple methods getting generated, entity set, some sort of a create entity, some sort of a update entity, and delete entity. Okay. In travel app as well, we'll get some methods. Maybe I'm not saying that it will be name wise as well called out like this, but like we were responsible in gateway after defining the entity for implementing each and every logic granularly at our own same way. In unmanaged app as well, we have to do the same thing at our own. Okay. Second thing is in the gateway, we used to have some sort of a deep structures. Okay. We can say deep methods call, for example, create deep entity and get expanded entity. Okay, so same way we would be able to generate some methods if we want in for the deep executions as well. But the name and the structure would differ. So now maybe let's just go in that direction to see how it is working. So for example, if I just open this travel, maybe it would look like a normal read-only app because here we don't have anything which specify that, okay, whether my application is a managed or unmanaged. Other than the naming convention we followed, rest everything seems like a normal wrap application. Okay, so this looks good. I'll just go over here and I'll just simply say, I'll blindly go over here and copy paste few things. Okay, I guess this would also be good to have. Okay, so I'll just go over here and quickly enrich it with a bit of information. because the same structure is same, so that's why maybe we can just copy and paste it. I guess this, underlying fields are same, right? So rather than spending time on that, maybe we can spend time in learning the other skeletons of RAP, because RAP is a very really vast topic, I guess, over here. So I'll just close this as well. Okay, and now we do have the travel. Oh, I guess we did it for the booking. Yeah, we did it for the booking. So we need now for the travel as well. So I'll just say there's a travel. Element bookings. Okay, here we have called it out as a bookings. There's a travel, and I guess what it is called then. Okay, there's a booking in this case. That could be the reason. Okay, so I guess that's activated now. And now if I just go back, we should have the application, at least in a normal state, available for us. Okay, so we do have it ready. Okay, perfect. So now next important thing is the behaviors. Okay. So now let's just go over here, just close this out. And now let's just also close each and everything we don't need. Instead, now let's just focus on this travel. So travel is a root view entity. Okay, so I'll just go and right click on that and I'll just say create a new behavior definition. Okay, so these are unmanaged travel one I do have, and here the same way I want to create the implementation type, but this time as a unmanaged. So this is something which is important. This is what you would like to follow when you are working on the unmanaged. I'll just say finish. Okay, so now it looks like empty behavior is getting created. I'll just give it an alias like we used to give it for the managed one. Same way, I'll just say travel. This is my booking. Okay. Now, another thing that you would be seeing that we do have a couple of things already available over here. So the moment we do have this, I guess we'll also see that we do have a class which does not exist. Okay, so I'll just have to first activate this behavior in order for us to work on the class implementation. Okay, so I guess once we do have this particular behavior implementation in place, we'll be able to create our own set of classes as well. Okay, so we'll just go with the strict 2 over here first. Okay, and here along with that, we'll also provide some sort of a logging mechanism over here by providing the field call. Okay, last change it. And here we'll just specify. Okay, now comes the main thing. Okay, so this is a skeleton which is ready, and we are now talking about a non-normal, non-draftable application. But now this class is not there. So let's just put a cursor on this and create a behavior implementation class for this. So this will create a class, but the important thing to note down is the skeleton of the class. Perfect. So now I'll activate this. So here comes the main thing which I would like you to actually focus on. Okay, so we have this. We have this. I'll just do a syntax check. I guess I don't think we would have anything. Yeah, so we don't have any warnings, anything. But now let's just go back to the discussion we had. So in gateway-based application as well, you would have observed that we used to have a get entity and get entity sets and couple of methods which gives us the behaviors. Okay. Now we are saying that a travel is a create, update, delete, enable, but it's an unmanaged. So it means SAP is not giving us any functionality out of the box. Okay. So if that's the case, then who is going to manage those? Okay. So if you just go over here, we do have a two handler class created, LHC, which is a local handler class for travel, and we do have LHC for booking, which is a local handler class for booking. At the same time, we do have LSC, which is a saver class. So there are three classes, okay, which are, so it's not three, it's always two. It's like we do have a parent class in which implementation is being considered. On top of it, we do have one handler class which handles the I can say execution cycle of each and every node. For travel, we'll have one. For booking, for example, there are 50 nodes of business object. We'll have 50 local handler classes and one common saver class which will save the data. Okay, so as we are going to write the logic, we have to accumulate our data in the handler class and we have to finally save the data in the saver class. So maybe if I just give you a bit of a screenshot, I guess I'll give you a bit of an idea over here, be it a manage, or let's just say if we do have some screenshot for unmanaged, manage BO. Yeah, here it is, right? So if you just go over here, you would see that like in case of a unmanaged as well, we'll have two kind of thing. A transactional buffer is something that will continue to be there. In the interaction phase, we'll be modifying and changing all the data. There we'll be writing our own set of logic. In the saver class, we'll be finalizing, validating, for generating the number, and then we'll be saving the information. So this is what the save sequence means. So if you just go back in your I can say class, you would see that if I want to create the travel information, I do have a create method over here, which allows me creating the information. Okay. So what you will be doing is you will be able to write each and every logic to uh, create an entry into the database table once you are getting the control into the create. If you want that a record is being updated. So in case of update, if you want to write some logic, you will be writing it in the update. Same goes with the delete. Same goes with the read. Okay. In case you want to apply some sort of lock, you will be able to do that. As we have mentioned that booking cannot be created directly. It can only be created via this association over here. There will be a method dedicatedly for that, which is called create by association, which is a CBA booking, which will create the information of a booking via the association. Same, if you want to read the bookings information, you can also read it via the association called read by association over here. Okay. Now the handler class over here in the booking, you will see that, okay, it's a update, delete. You will be able to read the information and there you will be able to read the information of a travel. So these are all the methods. Now comes the important part, which is a saver. That each time, okay, a final create header item, everything is getting created, you will get a call on your saver class, which will say that you will be able to finalize the list of information. You would be able to check before actually saving. You would be able to save the data, and finally all the cleanup that you want to do, you will be able to do those cleanup. So this is something which is central. Even though you do a 50 odd nodes, the final saving mechanism, the one which will do the database commit, the one where we'll be writing the insert, update, delete actual statement on the database table. Here we'll be preparing the data. Okay, here we'll be preparing the data in some sort of a, I can say internal tables, or I can say some sort of a class attribute layers. But instead, the final save will happen only after the final validation is being done in the check before save. And in the final save method, we'll be writing a logic to save the data. Okay, so these how the skeleton, or I can say execution, will occur. So for example, if I just simply generate this unmanaged, I can say behavior definition for you. Okay, here you will see that, okay, again, it's a projection because that will continue to be projection because we are creating a behavior on top of the projection view. My bad. So yeah, one more thing. We cannot create a behavior on a non-root entity. So I guess we should be creating it on the travel. So I'll just say new behavior definition, and I'll just go over here and I'll just say next, finish. Okay, and we'll just activate this for now. One thing which I would like you to observe over here is the moment you go over here in this application, now refresh. You will have the create, delete, and everything available. But for example, if I just say delete, there are 4139 record. I'll just say delete over here. Is anything getting deleted? No, because we never wrote any logic. If I just say create, you will see the page over here. But after passing each and every information over here, even if you try creating, this looks like it got created because there was one object with a number 1. I guess that's why it just derived the old information while re-navigating. But for example, I'll just say 2023-03, for example, 04-1212 over here. And now if I just say create, you will see that, okay, there is this object was created. That was a message. But when you go back, okay, will be gone. There are no additional record getting created. 4139 is the one, and the number that we actually generated it with is not still there. It's not there onto the database because it's unmanaged, right? You have to write the logic in order for you to do those executions. So now if we just see the cycle, the circle of the execution, how it behaves. Okay, so for example, I'll just put a breakpoint for our understanding over here in the method. So which is a create over here. Okay, and then we'll move, put the cursor over here in the finalize booking. Sorry, check before save, clean up, and over here. Okay, so you would see that there is something called create. So if I just go over here and try to view the element info, I'll just show view over here, other and ABAP element info over here. The moment you open this, you will see that for each and every method, for create as well, you are getting the entity input, which sees that, okay, what all things you will be getting. So you are getting each and every information which a user is passing as a part of the input. Okay, post which you will be able to insert it, and you will be able to generate any error message if there are any, and mark any sort of failed parameter. For example, there are 3 records which you received for creation, but it just got failed due to X and Y reason. You will be able to map the generated parameter also in the mapped over here. That's also possible. Okay, so for example, if I just go over here, okay, so for example, if I just go over here and I'll just say create, and I'll just say 2023-04. Okay, now I'll just say create over here. And if you just go back over here, you should be seeing that, okay, you are getting a debugger over here. So you would also be debug it out. And here, as you can see, you are getting the cursor in the create method first. And here you would have some importing parameter in the locals, which is the entities over here, in which you are receiving one record. As a part of which you are receiving each and every information which is being passed. So like we used to have a importing parameter in the create entity method, maybe you were using it using the IO data provider. Here you are getting those information directly. And then you would be able to map the information. So now, for example, if I just say resume, execute, you would be seeing that, okay, now you are getting the control in your finalization, where you would be able to finalize the output. Then you would be able to do a validation in your check before save method, Okay, where in case you feel that, okay, there are any validations which you want to execute, you can execute it over here. In case of any message, you can give it in the reported. In case any record is failing, you can give the key parameter of it in the failed. I'll just execute it over here. And you would be able to write your final insert, update, delete, any sort of save part as a part of the save method. And then the final cleanup will happen. Okay, so these are the life cycle how a record gets created. So this is just a placeholder. That's why it would show you as if it get created, but the moment you go back, it would be gone because there is an unmanaged. So there is a life cycle into which we'll be writing our own set of logic in the form of a EML, entity manipulation language. Okay. So this is something that we are going to learn further. I guess I guess this is something that maybe we can consider for today. Any doubts in any of
Uh,
this particular topic
so
till now? Yes,
so
Sujal.
me yes. So since this managed is like inbuilt, right? I mean, so many of the functionalities are like coming on its own. Then what's the use of this unmanaged? We have to write each and every logic in these methods, right? In unmanaged. So where exactly do we use managed and where exactly do we use unmanaged? What are the
Use
so
cases of it.
looks like this has lot of efforts to put on
Definitely, I
unmanaged.
guess. Definitely. So I guess manage is the preferable way to go if you are starting with, I can say, new application. Okay. Consider a scenario where you do have a BOF-based application already available. Okay. So consider you do have BOF-based application already available, and there you have written all your logic already in different determinations action. You have written all your transactional processing and each and everything. Now you want that this BOF application needs to be converted into a wrapped one. Then it would be your call. You have to decide on whether a managed will be a good fit for you or an unmanaged will be a good fit for you. So how you can decide on how you can weigh on that. First, if you are having a set of business APIs, okay, so many a time people has a, I guess many a developer has a habit of generating class APIs which contains all the different BAPIs and everything and all the stuff which are required for their actual processing. So if you do have such an APIs which in place and you want that in case I am going to create, for example, take an example of you are creating a purchase order application. Okay. So purchase order application has already a BOF application available on top of it. Now this BOF application is also consuming certain class APIs which are already being provided by SAP. So if you are going with a managed, the first thing that you would be doing is you would be generating the BO architecture, which says, okay, what is a parent, what is a child. Then you have to write the persistent table. Okay,
Okay.
so if you are going to write persistent table as EKKO, what would happen is it would directly enter the data into the EKKO, which is not a right thing. You should not be entering the data in this particular standard table. If you are developing an application at your own, definitely you can take the call and you can define and pass each and every information over here. But for example, if you are trying to generate some sort of application which are already provided, or let's just say if you are having your own application in your organization which is BOF based, and doesn't matter BOF based, or let's just say if there is any legacy application already available where business logic has a set of class APIs already available which says that okay, when and where the data should be saved. Okay,
Hmm.
so that's and let's just say many a time you would also observe that, for example, if I'm saying I'm creating an item, then along with the item creation, few fields are being inserted into some place, few fields are also getting inserted into some other place. In managed app as well, we do have some cases, or I can say some functionality which says that manage with additional save. This is something we will be seeing, and manage with unmanaged save. So these are the flavors of manage as well, which gives you a hook where you would be able to write your logic that each and everything will go as per the wrap behavior, or I can say wrap architecture. But on top of it, if you want some additional places where you can write your logic to save additional data, which is over and above the mapping that you are providing, then you can go with this architecture as well. But many a time what happens is if you do have any of the skeleton already available, which is directly having a logic to save the data, to create and persist it, and all the business logic in a layman term, I can say if all the business logic is already available in some places and you want to reuse it, okay, then you would need a broader control on the application. And that broader open control on the application is only being provided by the unmanaged because that's an open thing. All it is giving you is the architecture, the skeleton of it. Rest in each and every handler, you would have the liberty to write your own logic. So
Okay.
as per standard guideline as well, manage is a way forward for each and every new application, each and every fresh application where there is nothing legacy available. Okay. If there is any legacy available, but still you want to write your business logic from the scratch, line by line, then definitely it's nothing but as good as you are creating a fresh application. But if you want to reuse some logic, okay, at that point in time, you would need a good amount of handler. Whereas as you observe the manage class, you won't see much handler, or I can say much methods other than the determination, action, and validation, which gives you a placeholder method. Rest everything is being handled automatically by the framework. But in case of unmanaged, everything is open. So it depends. If you are going to reuse something, unmanaged will be where you have some pre-built APIs already available and you want to consume those as a part of your application behavior implementation. Okay, so at that point in time, unmanaged makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the call that you can take on depending on the I can say the magnitude of your application, the kind of implementation that was done while it was developed in the legacy world. So that is something. But in case of a fresh application, definitely manage is the way forward, which gives you everything out of the box. So if it's a starting from zero, go with this. If it's a legacy, check out if there is anything that you can reuse. If you want to reuse something, go with unmanaged, then it will give you more liberty. If there is nothing to be reused and you want to do everything from the scratch, again, go with the managed.
Okay.